Hey folks, in this video we'll discuss the Infinity War Prelude Part 1. Now, as the title suggests, there ought to be a Part 2, and for clarity, the first part deals with the events immediately after the Avengers Civil War and just before the start of the Avengers Infinity War saga. Furthermore, Part 1 follows what and where all the Earthbound Avengers are up to in the intervening period. Part 2, however, will deal with the spacebound heroes like the Guardians of the Galaxy and how they met up with Thor and Loki. It will also follow Captain Marvel's antics and perhaps mention a little bit about public enemy number 1, Thanos himself. Again, both issues are preludes to help us, the viewers, fill in the gaps between the Avengers stories. And kudos to the writers for such a great idea. It seems those guys at Marvel have our best interests at heart. So the story apparently picks up where the Civil War movie ended. Captain America is carrying Bucky away from Iron Man. We remember how Iron Man blasted off Bucky's metal arm and almost killed him. Yeah, so Captain America takes Bucky outside the Hydra facility and they encounter T'Challa. He apologizes for hunting down Bucky prior to that point, which was in the Civil War movie. If you haven't seen it, what rock have you been under? Black Panther has since realized that Bucky's mind was being controlled by certain trigger words. Meanwhile, Helmut Zemo, the Sokovian who is responsible for all the mess, is out of frame. T'Challa probably has him locked up on the plane. T'Challa then invites Bucky to Wakanda so the mind control programming can be undone and his arm replaced with a vibranium version. But Captain America says he has one stop to make before coming to Wakanda, so the plane drops him off in the middle of the ocean. Captain America has plans to break out his colleagues at the high-security raft prison, and it's Falcon, Hawkeye, Ant-Man, and Wanda Maximoff. The captain swims over and takes the guards out. Again, we recall that they had all been arrested for breaking the Sokovian Accord, and that fight at the airport comes to mind. Also, this breakout was hinted at in the movies even though it didn't make the final editor's cut. So from here, the real story begins and we get to see the background events before the Infinity War saga was set in motion. Everyone goes home, but they still have to keep a low profile because somehow they are still fugitives. As usual, Clint is really good at this and finds a cozy, isolated pad for himself and his family. Scott reunites with his daughter on the low with the help of Paxton, the cop who is now with Scott's ex-wife. Wanda has reunited with Vision, and from the image portrayed in the comic panel, the location looks like a town in the UK. To further confirm this, the aesthetics of the same location pops up in subsequent movie scenes. As for the Falcon, he partners with Captain America and the Black Widow on some sensitive missions, which we will get to later. But first, let's touch base with Bucky all the way in Wakanda. Before now, Shuri, who is T'Challa's sister, had been making preparations to help Bucky with his problem. Apparently, she is the smart one. Even smarter than the Black Panther himself. Anyway, she receives Bucky, and you can tell she is up to the task. She has run a number of tests and comes up with a plan, which also involves playing it safe. At least she's not one of those mad scientists who experiment recklessly. She explains to T'Challa and Bucky that the mind control triggers are deeply rooted and complex. Mind you, Bucky has been kept alive for 100 years, like Captain America. And during that time, he has experienced a lot of trauma. And if Shuri doesn't tread carefully with her procedure, Bucky could get lost in his own mind. From the movie, we remember the scene where Bucky is put on ice. The prelude clears things up by suggesting he was only there for a few months. During that time, Shuri's AI program was working its magic on Bucky's mind. Okay, we take our comment about Shuri back. She may not be a mad scientist, but she is certainly one who can break the rules, and we're referring to her use of artificial intelligence. One of the agreements of the Sokovian Accord was to ban all use of AI. We know how, during the previous film, an AI created by Tony Stark and Bruce Banner metamorphosed into Ultron, and this same robot almost took over the world. The Avengers ultimately stopped it, but at the price of destroying the entire nation of Sokovia, and even almost destroying themselves during the Civil War installment. So the world made AI illegal, in keeping with the wishes and warnings of none other than Elon Musk. We're only kidding. Elon wasn't featured in any of the movies, even though he'd have felt right at home in the Avengers Age of Ultron movie especially. At that point, Shuri is using her understanding of AI to help Bucky banish his demons. She also plans to expand her AI research for the betterment of Wakanda, and no one can stop her, not while Wakanda is still a closed society. Shuri plans to deploy AI everywhere, starting with new Black Panther suits and going up to vehicles and weapons. Fingers crossed, we might get to see Shuri do all this in future Black Panther movies. But that aside, we jump from Wakanda to Syria, where we meet up with Captain America. He is with the Falcon and the Black Widow. They have been traveling the world busting criminal organizations and seizing illegal weapons. And these are not your regular arms dealers because the weapons are being sold by the Vulture's gang from Spider-Man Homecoming, which also includes a tech whiz character known as the Tinkerer. The Vulture, or Adrian Tumes, is played by Michael Keaton in that movie, so this is where all those tech weapons end up while being flagged down by the three Avengers. The Black Widow becomes especially helpful with her old KGB connections. This is how they get the intelligence on where to go to nab these criminals, but the storyline deliberately sets things up that way, so they are only privy to a limited resource for intel. Otherwise, there would have been no point to the Spider-Man Homecoming movie. Just imagine if they somehow found out that the source of all these weapons was the dad of Peter Parker's prom date. Certainly they would have shut things down quickly. Otherwise, they are left to their limited intelligence as they go from site to site, catching the buyers one by one, and after each raid, they would disassemble the weapons and take special care of the alien components used to create the weapons. Remember how Adrian Tumes was the contractor responsible for cleaning out the Stark building? This is where he stumbled upon the alien technology and stole it for monetary gain. Also, more emphasis is put on the Falcon, Captain America, and the Black Widow, showing what they were up to before the events of the Infinity War. Basically, it's all about a plot device that sets up the Marvel movie in such a way as not to contradict itself. Good thinking if you ask me. But where is Tony Stark in all of this? An Infinity War Prelude would be incomplete without him because he played an important role during the Civil War installment. Plus, he's Iron Man after all, and the de facto leader of the Avengers. But first, you should run that by Captain America if you must. We also recall Tony's moral dilemmas in Iron Man 3, where he was doing everything he could to create the sort of defense system that would help the Earth in case an event like the alien invasion in Avengers Part 1 ever happened again. Throughout and up to the Ultron movie, Tony has always worried about future threats to humanity, and it was the same motivation that led to the creation of Ultron. However, Tony has since learned his lesson, or has he? Following the aftermath of Ultron, the Captain expressly told Tony that if there was ever a problem, then we, that is, the Avengers, would solve it together. It seems Tony's penchant for working alone was a problem. Another thing about Tony is that he doesn't like to be surprised, so even if Captain America was only a phone call away, Tony would continue to worry whether the Avengers were strong enough to counter any future threats. Ultimately, the Prelude suggests that this is why Tony made the improvements to Spider-Man's suit that seem like overkill. We get to see this suit in its full glory in subsequent films. It is also why Tony upgraded his arc reactor core and created yet another suit among 1,000 others before it. Clearly, he is still in that state of mind where he is anxious that something bad could happen. So for Tony, it's better to be prepared than to be sorry. And if you've noticed, Tony is one to always think ahead, like when he made the Hulkbuster suit for obvious reasons. Tony also figures that if everything goes south, he alone can assume the last line of defense. So we got the idea to create his most advanced suit to date, and it would turn out to be the bleeding-edge variant made from nanotechnology. No spoilers. In the comics, this variant of the Iron Man suit is one of his most advanced, and it certainly works well with the evolution of the Iron Man subplot in the movie interpretation. As we mentioned, there's a Part 2 Infinity War Prelude, and we treat that too, if you guys want. Just signify by dropping your comments. There's also a comic book prelude to Doctor Strange that focuses on his evil arch-nemesis in the person of Cassilas the Sorcerer. Should we treat that one too? Please let us know also. Marvel preludes have become more detailed recently. In the past, buying a prelude comic to a Marvel movie was like reading a recap of the previous film, but the Marvel writers have since realized that there is a real opportunity to fill in stories and create more excitement amongst fans. So apart from post-credit scenes, there are also comic book preludes you should look out for. I bet you didn't know that. So that's it, folks, and as Stan Lee of blessed memory would say, Excelsior! Please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to get up to speed on related Marvel comic book titles. Thank you for watching, and bye!